Call the meeting to order.
The City of San Clemente respects the many people of different faiths who reside here. The City Council historically begins its session with an invocation offered by one of the religious leaders of our community with full appreciation of our shared belief that we are one nation under God. And while the city cannot endorse any particular religion, we respect the religious freedom and freedom of expression of all our citizens to pray as they feel led to pray. This evening's invocation will be given by Robin Margraf of Our Lady of Fatima Church.
Please rise and remain rising while Council Member Bain will give us the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. God of all creation, we stand before you mindful of our need for your guidance and wisdom. At a time when our nation appears divided, help us to recognize all that unites us. Help us to make just and fair decisions so that we may continue to build a strong and compassionate community. As this meeting begins, we pray for each person in attendance. May we be mindful of the freedom we enjoy to engage in open and civil discourse. We thank you for our community and all who serve it, for those who teach our children and keep our community safe, for those who maintain our parks and our beaches and our streets, for those who tend to the sick and sorrowing, and especially for those who govern, for all who live the best example of what it means to be a citizen. We remember especially all in our community who go without, those who are ill, and those who live in fear or loneliness. Gracious God, we bring to you our hopes and our burdens. Hear our prayer. Amen.
Please join me in singing the pledge. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember Ferguson. Here. Councilmember Ward. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Bain.
Here.
Mayor Swartz.
Here.
And Councilmember Ham is absent. First item on the agenda is a toll road update, and I do have a speaker card.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would like to start out by thanking the City Council. I attended a very spirited toll road forum last fall, and we were heartened to read in the myth-busting part. Myth number one was that San Clemente wants to return to the green alignment, and the fact delivered was that San Clemente opposes the green alignment and does not want the SR 241 toll road extension to go through either Trestles or the middle of the city of San Clemente. Similarly, IBI did a study that was commissioned by the city last year that found that there would basically be no utility in an arterial or a toll road going through San Onofre State Park, the Donna O'Neill Land Conservancy, and the San Mateo watershed. Similarly, any project that attempted to do that would basically encounter insurmountable regulatory and opposition obstacles. As such, we were confused by the mayor's comments last month in the San Clemente Times indicating support for the same road that the city's consultant study said would yield virtually no utility and that the city formally opposed last fall. In light of all this, we would like for you to clarify to the public whether you support or oppose building a road through San Onofre State Beach that would damage the park with little traffic benefits. Thanks.
I have an update. Okay. Yes, I'll do a quick update. Laura, if you've got that slide. A week and a half ago, I attended a CUSD school board meeting where they did a presentation on TCA's proposed alternatives and the impacts to our public schools. This page here shows that this is from the South County Traffic Relief Effort. It's their actual pages from the TCA report. Can you go to the next slide? These are the alternatives that will affect all public schools, alternative 13, 14, 17, and 21. Next page. This, it's not going to show up well. This is a slide of a road detail of Los Patrones Parkway. It shows the Oso Bridge at the bottom where that is being built by TCA and County of Orange. Tesoro High School's on the other side. And what they're trying to point out is that there are truck climbing lanes on this road. If the toll road was allowed to take Los Patrones, which is now a county free arterial, that these truck climbing lanes would be added, the road would be widened. And this was very alarming to the school board because of the high school being there. Can you go to the next slide? This is again another section, a little bit larger, of Los Patrones Parkway, showing the length of those truck climbing lanes that would be added. Can you go to the next slide? This is the actual detail of the PSR report for TCA of where number 14 would come into our freeway at Pico right in front of the high school. These lanes that you see on the side that are shaded and in the middle are what would have to be widened to accommodate that road. Again, the high school is over to the side there as indicated, San Clemente High School. That road, the rest of the freeway would also be widened by the same amount through our entire town. Can you go to the next slide? This is an important page that they alluded to. It says alternative 21, and that's an alternative that TCA came up with, I believe, last February. It consists of two separate roadway segments. The first would be to extend Los Patrones Parkway with 2 lanes in each direction from Oso Parkway to north of Cowcamp to Avenida La Plata, north of Vista Montana. Vista Montana is actually, I believe, called Stallion Ridge now. That's right where San Juan Hills High School is. So they're talking about coming in and connecting to La Plata there in front of San Juan Hills High School. This is the important point to what's on this page. The determination for Los Patrones Parkway as tolled or untolled from Oso Parkway to Vista Montana, which is Stallion Springs, will be further evaluated during the next PA and ED phase. That is what TCA is trying to get into now with Caltrans. And they're saying that our free county arterial that is Los Patrones Parkway, they're going to determine whether it's tolled or untolled. It's currently a free public road, and they're talking about taking it over. Can you go to the next slide? This again shows San Juan Hills High School. The road above is La Plata, and that is the lower part is the TCA new road coming in. That's what they presently are going forward with or have in their PSR. Again, it shows the green lines that are truck climbing lanes. Can you go to the next slide? Go to one after that, real quick. Okay. Recently, Supervisor Bartlett and the County of Orange proposed another extension. It's called the Los Patrones Parkway. It's a conceptual alignment. If you look, the yellow area there is what they're showing as a new alignment instead of going on to La Plata, and it swings around and goes around the landfill, but comes to the boundary of San Clemente right before Talega there, and it would end. What the school district was alarmed at is they believe, their attorney believed that because of the truck climbing lanes, this road and this extension will be billed as a movement for trucks for moving goods, that it will become a new transportation corridor for trucking. So they were very concerned that that would be going by their schools, and they thought that that was much more detrimental and news that we had never heard before, because again, TCA keeps saying these are lines on a map, but they're not really just lines. There are a lot of detail in there, and they're roads. So you can go to that slide before. This is the schedule that is published right now in the PSR. It shows January 2019, which we have just passed, is the PSR that is done, and they're saying that they're moving on to the EIR preparation. We've already passed January 2019, and the county's wanting to add another segment. So I know TCA at our public forum told us that the PSR was closed, but we asked them to allow all of our public comments to go into the PSR because we thought that was the right thing to do. So if you notice, TCA and Caltrans is saying public cannot comment until January of 2021. That not to take any comments. So what the school district has asked, and I thought I would convey, is they're asking for the public to comment now, especially parents. If you are concerned that this is going by the schools and it's going to be for trucking, and Los Patrones is not going to be a free road, please contact the county, contact TCA to try to comment with Caltrans into this, this PSR, but also contact your family and friends that you know in other cities that would also be concerned about this. We know that we have many residents that have friends and family in Rancho Mission Viejo, the new Rancho Mission Viejo. They should know what the TCA is trying to do through this road. And the last thing that I would want to comment is this entire process that TCA has been going through has been very disconcerting to our city and to all of our residents and many other people in South County, that the process was not very direct and not very open. Two of the alternatives, 21 and what might be 22, that Los Patrones extension, have just been added without any public forum or any public comment, and they're just going right into the process. So the one thing that the attorney for the, I just want to leave with this one point. The attorney for the school district said out of this process that that what he could gather of it is this is pretty much a collusion between three agencies to build a road. It's TCA, the county, and Caltrans. And that's what's happening. It's not really been a public process, that it's pretty much these three agencies trying to build a road, and the school district is going to remain opposed to it. So that's my update of it. I've asked for the presentation from the school district to be added to our website, so you can see it at the toll road info on the city's website if you want to look at that. I think it was a good presentation.
Scott?
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to report on publicly on the outcome of a hearing heard last week in the cases brought by the city and the Reserve Homeowners Association against TCA, Caltrans, and other parties. The hearing last week was on the defendant's pretrial motion. They'd filed demurs trying to knock out our complaints for failing to add up to viable causes of action. And so, as with most pretrial motions, the presumptions in these motions are against the party seeking dismissal prior to hearing. So in this case, the presumptions were against TCA and its co-defendants because they were trying to knock our complaint out without a hearing. But I'm happy to say that with minor exception, in that hearing, the court ruled completely in the city's and the Reserve's favor on the demurs and related motions. So our cases were left intact. There was one cause of action that the city had filed that the court found required participation by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and without that participation, we couldn't bring it. But the rest of our complaint, the vast majority of its elements were left intact by the demur, and the same was true with regard to the Reserve's complaint. And I won't bore you with all those specifics, but the court had found first and foremost that at least preliminarily, the settlement agreement and the cooperative agreement that were mentioned earlier were not just agreements to step away from the old green alignment project, but they were agreements to do something more with a new alignment, presumably through San Clemente. And it was because of those latter elements that were bolted on. I'm sure this is the point that the mayor was trying to make in the article, because it was more than just a walkaway, but it was a turn and a drive toward a new alignment, that there's more to those agreements. The city is on record as saying that it is against the green alignment as previously conceived, but it's also against altering that agreement to redirect the freeway this way. And so the court found that those were viable causes of action. The court also found lacking authority to sign the cooperative agreement on behalf of the state representatives and TCA representatives that signed them. Those would be triable issues of fact, and the court refused to accept them on judicial notice without approval by the defendants. The court also agreed to leave intact the reserves complaint arising from the Brown Act. It found that the statute of limitations had not presumably run against the city and the reserve. And the judge let stand the city's cause of action where the city attorney sought to enforce the Fish and Game Code. This was actually my favorite victory because the state had argued that only they, or we as their deputies, could bring a private attorney general action to enforce the Fish and Game Code provisions that they were violating in pursuing this freeway through San Clemente and its open space. And the court found that the city, through its city attorney, could actually bring that action. And that was one that we argued hard and furiously about, but we were pretty confident ought to stand up. The judge ruled in our favor on virtually all the evidentiary motions, as I mentioned previously. TCA had not wanted this case to proceed until long into April. They and Caltrans had fought our desire to amend our complaint to attack the big bundle of, the burn rate of TCA's consulting team. Remember, they teed up $20 million or so in contracts last fall, and we wanted those to at least be paused until we could decide if TCA even has the authority to issue them. We'd also challenged, since the beltway around us is gone, we'd brought a challenge to TCA. We want to bring a challenge to TCA's development impact fees as it relate to this community, because if the benefit of the connection to I-5 is gone, why would our community need to pay for it? And so that the defendants had really fought us hard on including those amendments in our complaint. The judge suggested to them that they should stop fighting, that it was going to happen anyway. And so I'm happy to say that with their cooperation since that kind of warning from the bench, we've been working with counsel for the reserve to have them stipulate to our getting that filed and actually front loading the low impact, low cost elements of the case in a bifurcated motion, and backloading the things that are expensive and tedious to prove up and fight about. So that's all set to continue on course. I think April 15th, Dan, is that right? And that'll be a hearing on what we wanted heard, the motion to bifurcate, presuming that our amended complaint's going to go forward as we had hoped.
So, sorry not to extend this too much, but just to encapsulate, so we've been waiting a long time for those motions to be heard, a little over 6 months actually. The wheels of justice do run slowly, so finally we've got a ruling that allows this case to advance. So for those that are out there wondering what's been going on with the toll road, this is now sort of a watershed moment where we can hopefully move forward with the litigation at a more expeditious pace and get a determination regarding the TCA's legislative authority. And to Mr. Benson's question, I think this council is unanimous in opposing all of the routes past Oso Parkway. The green alignment's been taken off the table, and so unfortunately, the city of San Clemente is now sort of in the crosshairs, and we're, to a person, resolute against all of those. So, you know, we're still looking at legislative options as we have in the past. Litigation, as Scott mentioned, we've now expanded our causes of action to challenge what we see as a gross overreach of the TCA. And, you know, thankfully the judge at this stage agreed with us that our cause of action are viable, and we get to go forward to hopefully a trial on the merits. So,
thank you both. Thank you all three. Anything else? Any other add on that? Nothing else on the toll road?
Next is a presentation by Mickey Rathman, Pier Pride Foundation concerning Pier Pride's accomplishments during 2018, the third-year partnership with the city.
Good evening, Mayor Schwartz, council members, friends, and neighbors. I am Mickey Rathman, a board member with the Pier Pride Foundation. And on behalf of all of our team, we're here to thank you for another successful year of our partnership with the city and our friends and neighbors. It's been a great year of shared commitment to preserve and enhance our beautiful San Clemente Pier. With me tonight representing the Pier Pride Board is our 2018 President Peggy Vance, who's in the back there, as well as our 2019, oh, right behind me, yes. I'm so glad. And our 2019 President Elaine Kawas, also right behind me. We thank our entire Pier Pride Board and volunteers for their hard work, making 2018 such a huge success, and we look forward to even more exciting achievements in 2019. As we continue our partnership with the city to improve and enhance the pier for all to enjoy. Our two signature projects last year were fundraising for new educational signs on the pier and for the purchase and installation of fishing line recycling containers. We are proud to say that we met our fundraising goals, and we will be inviting you to the pier before Memorial Day for an unveiling event. I'm here tonight mainly to provide you with a look back at 2018 and all that we accomplished, due in so many ways of your support of the Pier Pride Foundation. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, so let's take a look at a short video. And as it begins, I just want to remind everyone that pierpride.org is our website where you can go to get more information on our activities, to donate, and to get involved. Oh, there it is. I was looking to see it. You'll see here pictures from our Uncork Your Pride event at at the Cellar, which was a great success and great fun. There's one of our educational signs. We're establishing a legacy foundation where individuals can donate to help preserve our pier for the long term. We had a beautiful sunset dinner at the galley at the Fisherman's, where people got to sit next to the sand and enjoy dinner in the sunset. An outstanding meal prepared by the chefs at Fisherman's Restaurant. As you can say, everyone had a delightful time enjoying a cup of Pier Pride wine. We had a really unique event where we took a sail back in time on the Dana Pride from Dana Point all the way to the San Clemente Pier, where people learned about the unique history of our pier and got to see it from a unique perspective. And October was Pier Pride Month, and we had an incredible 5 Mondays of Pier Pride Bingo, where people were able to come have a good time and make a donation to our organization at Goody's Tavern, one of the many local establishments in town who support our nonprofits. We had award-winning chowder at the Sea Fest. Hope everyone got to enjoy a delicious cup of that. And then our signature event during October's Pier Pride Month was Light Up the Pier, where organizations and residents throughout San Clemente came to shine their light from the San Clemente Pier, preserving its future for everyone to enjoy, sending their light to folks who are up at the Casa Romantica, another one of our cherished historic landmarks here in town, where they were able to beam their light back. And these photos that you see are of us enjoying that evening, as well as receiving an incredible honor from Senator Bates, where we were recognized for our hard work during the year of 2018. We have many sponsors who support our efforts, so we're very grateful for their help in our efforts. I'm happy to answer any questions if the council had anything that they were wondering or wanted to know.
Does council have any questions?
No questions, just thank you very much for everything that you guys have been doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed the music as well.
Yes, thank you, yeah. A little musical interlude for the meeting.
I tried to boost it up, but my mic wouldn't work.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much. You'll definitely be seeing us again later in the year, where we'll have some more information to share about our 2019 initiatives. We thank you again for your support, and we really value your partnership. Thank you.
Next is a presentation by Lieutenant Mike Peters, Orange County Sheriff's Department, and Stephanie Ogus of Mercy House concerning an update on homeless issues in San Clemente.
And if I may, Mayor, members of the City Council, this was directed to bring back to the Council. We engaged Mercy House as part of this current fiscal year's budget, and we set some performance metrics in there in terms of reporting. So tonight's presentation is twofold. One, for OCSD to give an update to the Council on what they've been doing from a homeless mitigation standpoint, but then secondarily, Mercy House will be going over their numbers and their statistics since they've come on board and disclosing some trends and some other things to the Council as well. So with that, Mr. Peters.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to come up. My PowerPoint doesn't have any really cool music. I'm feeling very bad. You like that one? But just a quick update on what's going on, and honestly, something to address the public, because social media is a proponent of some ideas that are unlawful, and it's kind of frightening sometimes. I try not to watch too much on social media. Unfortunately, it draws me in like a bad train wreck sometimes. So wanted to take this opportunity to kind of educate the public a little bit, and then give a kind of an outline of what we're doing and where we're going. So real quick, just a quick, for those of you that are out in the world looking at the PowerPoint slide, I got this off of the census, off the national data. So you can see that even in 2015, California was leading the nation as far as homeless goes at over 115,000, and that's counted 115,000. And across the nation, there's many different ways of counting homeless folks, but in this case, that was California's number. If we jump to 2017, we've jumped to 134,278, still leading the country. And I think there's some correlation. However, I'm not a PhD. I believe there's some correlation in some of the things that are going on in our state as far as laws go, and I wanted to cover those. This is just a quick breakdown off of the report given to Congress for 2017 of the homeless breakdown. You have individuals, people and families with children, unaccompanied homeless youth, veterans, and chronically homeless, and that's how California is broken up. So I know many of you have seen this slide before, and I come back to it because it's the best way for me to give the public an indication of what the things that they have voted for has brought into our state. So if we go back to 2011, you have AB 109. At that point, we had 162,000 prisoners in the state prison system. AB 109 hits, and we drop about 27,000 prisoners. Not sure where they went. Maybe they all got better and didn't need prison anymore. We jump to 2014 when Prop 47 hits, and that's the drug laws and theft laws that are making our crime rate rise now. And we dropped approximately 6,957 out of the prison system at that point. In 2017, we brought in Prop 57. Now, Prop 57 made a lot of violent crimes non-violent. And this is the CDC, the California Department of Corrections graph, their own graph. So they anticipate Prop 57 by 2021 dropping the prison population to 122,732. So my math skills aren't that great, but I used my Excel, and you got 41,933 prisoners in a 10-year period that are no longer in prison. And I'm not a PhD, but I can only determine by the fact that my Part 1 crimes, my Part 2 crimes, and all my crimes are rising. And unfortunately, our homeless issues are rising also across our state, that this is a large problem. So I need the public to understand where we are in this. So I put this up so people could capture this and take a look at it. First and foremost, you can see the first sentence: being homeless is not a crime. And it gets a little ridiculous when folks out there especially in the social media realm, want to identify a homeless individual because of the way they dress or the way they look as committing a crime. And there are terms for that, and there are protections in the Constitution for that. And the folks of our community and across the state need to understand that they voted for the things that are causing this. So, and I want to look out at the public, and I hope the public's listening. This body that's up here and the individuals that sit in this seat are not the ones that are stopping law enforcement from doing what we need to do. So turning your anger towards a local political group is not the right direction, and I'm trying to educate you on that right now. There's a section up there, the second bullet point. I hope that all of you will take and write that down. That is the Orange County Sheriff's Department's, OCSD's website. That's our policy, our official policy on dealing with the homeless. I would love for all of you to grab that and take a look at it. Now, it's a living document, so as policies change, as laws change, we can update that. But it's a living document, and it's important for you folks to see it. It's based a lot on the Martin versus City of Boise Ninth Circuit case that we're dealing with. And according to that case and our constitutional law, folks, that in agreement with the 8th Amendment, if there is no bed, if there is no bed that we can put somebody in, then we cannot enforce, per the law, anti-camping, anti-loitering, those types of municipal codes. Can't do it. It's against the law to do it. So what does that mean? Well, that means that according to the judge, the judge wants South County cities to put a shelter in. So here's the thing for all of the residents of San Clemente, because I know all of these folks know it. Where do you want your shelter in San Clemente? Who wants to volunteer up their location? And please, you can send a message directly to me if you want to volunteer up your neighborhood for the shelter. The thing about it is that every city in the South County area is struggling with that same question, with that same thought process. Every city is. We just happen to be a beach city, so therefore we have our share of homeless down here. To be honest with you, if you're going to be homeless, who wouldn't want to live in San Clemente? I'm sorry, some of you are going to be upset with me, but San Clemente's a beautiful city. So it's one of those things. If you go down to the second to last bullet point, you'll notice that our primary focus with the Sheriff's Department is outreach. Just so you know, if we ticket somebody for sleeping in public, if we ticket somebody for any of those are municipal codes. Those are misdemeanor infractions. Those go to a court at which elected judges make decisions based on values that the state has voted in. So therefore, nothing happens. That's the same, and I need to bring this forward to the public. When somebody is doing heroin directly in front of us, it is the same as giving them a liquor violation. It's a ticket. And that's what the citizens of California voted in. It's a ticket. So before 2014, folks, it was a felony. They would go to jail, they would get clean, they would get help. Now there's no help. Our Noxalone uses, which is bringing people from death's door on heroin overdoses, have doubled. And it will just continue down this path unless, I'm sorry to say this, but unless folks wake up and take a look. And finally, down at the bottom, I need to point out, I just talked about it, but these types of crimes are misdemeanors. By law, they are an infield ticket. They do not go in cuffs and go to jail. It's a ticket, and they move on. If they are indigent and can't pay their fines or can't do those things, the courts will typically throw the ticket out. They will not do anything. It typically won't even go to warrant. If we're lucky, it goes to some type of warrant. But I need folks to understand that outreach portion is critical. How we vote to fix some of the criminality within that element is critical. But at the same time, there are folks, they're not as I said in the beginning, being homeless is not a crime. And to assess your own values because of how somebody looks or how somebody is around you with all of their stuff, you need to kind of look in the mirror, because we've had many decades of civil rights issues, and you need to look close at what you're talking about. So I'm gonna get off my high horse. I apologize. I'm a little frustrated with certain things. So if we broke down homeless, we can break down homeless into private property and public property. I'm going to do the private property first. This is just for the public to understand the situation. If somebody is on your property, if you give us the authority to remove them from your property in a written letter allowing us to remove them, and then give us a 24-hour contact to contact you and have you sign to have a private person's arrest form filled out. That means you take the liability for the arrest on your property. We will fill it out. We will provide a warning to the individual who is trespassing on your property. If they return within a specific amount of time, it's at that point we will remove them again and give them a citation. But once again, this is a misdemeanor citation. They're not going to jail. And the only time that they're going to go to jail is if it becomes that it's likely to continue, that they're purposely doing it over and over again, then we will take them to jail. That is the basic principle of a private person's arrest for trespassing on property. If we look at the public property, there's one very crucial question that everybody has to be able to answer. Is there a local shelter for them to sleep? If there is, then we go through the same procedure, the same process of warning and then citation and removal. If there isn't, nothing can be done. It's the law. And I have to have the public understand that that is the law. And I believe the number was 60% voted those laws in. So you have to understand what the underlying problem is with what's going on. Now, one thing we do enforce is beach curfew. Between the hours of 12 and 4 at night, the deputies are walking the beaches when there's no calls. They'll walk the beach and they will remove people from the beach. The reason we do that is due to high tide. It's a safety risk to have people sleeping right there on the beach with high tide. And if anybody has seen our beaches as of lately, and you see the erosion that's happened, imagine sleeping there and being swept out. So that's for everybody. That's not one class of people. That's not homeless only. That's for everybody. If you're on the beach after midnight, you will be asked to leave per the beach curfew. Let me finish up. What you can do. Do me a favor. Educate yourself. Read Martin v. Boise. Read the sheriff's protocols online. Pay attention when you vote. Pay attention to what you're voting for. So in the recent November one, California voted in a no bail situation. Now you have people that are never going to go to jail, period, because there'll be no bail for them. They'll just be out. There'll be another release. So we just keep traveling down this pathway of restricting law enforcement and not us having to back away. So vote smart. Pay attention. The Prop 47 was hidden in safe communities and safe schools. If you would have read the whole bill, you would have recognized that it wasn't about that. Social media limitations and dangers. I love social media because it gives me a platform to reach out to the public, but I don't like social media because it gives people with false information and false narratives time to spew toxic gibberish that's causing issues and causing a lot of frustration, not only with the folks up here because they'll keep stone-faced, but with the deputies in the field, they know what's happening. They're out there every day. And so to hear the false narratives about, the cops won't do anything, the cops won't do this, cops won't do that, read the laws. Understand what you're talking about before you spout off, and I apologize for my language. Call the sheriff's department. I am born and raised in this city. I love this city. Everybody in this city has my email address. Many of them have my phone number. These folks up here are in the same boat. Please don't text or email me criminal behavior before you call 911. It blows my mind when I get those emails and they want me to do something for criminal behavior and it's an email. They didn't ever call 911. Second, please don't exaggerate. We've had a couple calls in our city where folks have exaggerated the calls to get us there. That means that deputies are driving code 3 to a location, and code 3 by itself is a dangerous situation. And when you exaggerate your call on purpose, and we know in some cases that it was done, it forces everybody, the public, into danger and us into danger in getting there. So please don't exaggerate. Just tell us the call and we'll get there. If you're going to donate to organizations. Don't donate to individuals. Donate to the organizations that are here to produce and give outreach. The county alone has over 200 programs for outreach. I know Mercy House is going to talk about outreach. FAM has outreach. There's a ton of outreach out there. Donate to some of these places that can put the money to use for a larger group of people instead of one. And then finally, pay attention. This world is changing, especially in California, the western United States, certain parts of the East. It's changing. It's imperative that the citizens of this city pay attention to their surroundings, take their blinders off, and start watching out for each other and watching out for themselves. That means if you see something suspicious in your neighborhood, somebody walking around your neighborhood that shouldn't be there, and there's specifics. It doesn't mean that you've never seen them there and it's 8 o'clock at night and maybe they're visiting somebody. It's 2:30 in the morning, their hoodies are up and they have masks on their face and they're in the neighborhood. You should probably call us. And it's those types of things that as a group, as a community, if we come together and we start battling the criminal activity as a group, as a whole, and not ignoring things, not putting our blinders up, we can make a difference. And I'm always the one up here pounding for, give me more people, give me more people. But the bottom line is, we can't do it all by ourselves. We have to have the support of our residents. And they're in their neighborhoods every day. They're in their community every day. When they see something that's a little odd, let us know. Call dispatch, let us look into it. It doesn't hurt. One time out of 10, it turns out to be an amazing situation. And I'm just going to throw it out there before I step off, or questions. Not too long ago, about a year ago, we had a community member walking her dog. She noticed something that was a little strange off in a distance, an individual that was acting very berserk and erratic. She called us, we made contact. It turned out that he was a wanted attempted murderer from Riverside that they had been looking all over for him. The moment we called Riverside that we got your murderer, they showed up here to take him. So that was just a resident that saw something that called us in, and it took a bad individual off the street because they were paying attention. So, questions?
I was just going to say, since being on council, you've been extremely responsive to the citizens who've been sending us photos, which is so helpful for residents that report to us when we're not always out in the field, to send those photos and addresses, and you've done an excellent job, you and your deputies, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Mike, I know you've talked about the fact, because of all these propositions and what we've all voted in, that we need to start being more proactive as far as prevention. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that I want to talk about when we start to go into budget is a full-time
crime
neighborhood
prevention specialist.
Yes, we need that, because we need to build with the neighborhoods and get people where they're starting to work together and build our neighborhood watch program more. Because I think you said before that if people would just lock the cars and the houses, what would our burglaries go down to?
It would drop quite a bit.
So we need to, that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about, because I know it's going to be very hard. The lobbyists for the other side that have proposed changing all of our laws, they're very strong. And our people don't, I think, have the will yet to rise up and fight this. So what we have to do is protect ourselves first. And I think that's what you've said in the past. So I'm hoping that we can discuss that.
And that is a phenomenal, the crime, see, when we had a part-time crime prevention specialist, but they're hard to find on a part-time basis. They're hard to find. But when Brittany was here, she was doing a good job of coordinating the different communities and getting them into it. And I'm not positive, I know I'm going to read up on it, I just heard about it right before I came up here, but LAPD has a very interesting, I believe it's LAPD if it's not LASO, an interesting neighborhood watch system to where they're actually empowering their citizens not to engage, but to go on patrols in their areas. So like if myself and Mr. Sun live in the same neighborhood, I might say, hey, Eric, do you want to take Tuesday the 5th and I'll take the 27th, and we get somebody else. And between a certain hours of like 12, midnight and 4, they just drive around their neighborhoods. They don't engage with anybody. All they're doing is driving around. Well, what they're noticing is a large drop in criminal activity in neighborhoods because there's eyes out there watching. And folks they'll see something that's suspicious, they'll pull over, they'll back away, they'll call in the call. Law enforcement will arrive and make contact. That's gotten to a point to where it's working. And but it takes the community to want to step up for their own protection and to work with us. And if we can get that, it would be amazing.
Chief, I was just going to echo what Councilwoman Ferguson said. You've been incredibly attentive and responsive to citizens. I know because we've been on, seems like hundreds of emails together in the last couple of weeks, and you've responded to all of them, so thank you for that. I'll put you on the spot a little bit and ask a hard question. Is there anything else we as a city council can be doing for you to help you do your jobs? And I understand the issues with more folks, and we'll look at that. We're getting you video monitors and video access. Anything else we can be doing that other cities aren't doing?
Yeah, James will be watching this.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Technology is an amazing thing. And I know that a lot of folks don't like Big Brother, but I visited Laguna Beach, and their ability to have mass cameras in public areas and their ability to communicate from those cameras, meaning if somebody is in a restricted area, they can communicate out of the camera and tell them, you are in a restricted area, law enforcement is en route, you should leave. And amazingly, the people leave. And so the call volume for their staff has dropped a little bit because they're able to do it from an intercom system. You're in a location that is curfewed or restricted, you need to leave. Or they have cameras in certain aspects of the city, like we do everything in this city specialized down on Del Mar. Big events with thousands of people. It would be nice to have some type of video system that could monitor those areas, especially at those times. It gives us a better overwatch of a situation. We have boots on the ground, but there's something about technology that you just can't do without. The city has done some good things for me as far as since we're on the homeless, they offered up a piece of one of the old fire engine bays downstairs for safekeeping of bulk storage. So that's going to reduce the footprint. When there's an encampment, there's a procedure that we have to follow legally. So we have to post it and say, you need to remove your stuff within the next 24 hours or it will be booked for safekeeping. 24 hours later, we'll return. We'll collect all of the essentials, anything that won't spoil, attract vermin, but things like sleeping bags and tents and those things that are essential for life, we will take those from the location, post it that we have them, we will book them for safekeeping for 90 days at the station, and the folks can have 24-hour access to it. Each operations sergeant will have it, and so if somebody's stuff is removed and it's posted, they can come to the station and recover their stuff safekeeping. Here's what happens. Most of the things are abandoned, but we can't legally determine that they're abandoned. We can't legally do that. So we will grab it, hold it for 90 days, and then we can discard it. It's those abandoned things that cause the outcry of encampments. There's nobody there. There hasn't been anybody there. But we can't just go and take somebody's tent. Even though we know it's abandoned, we can't do it. So the city has offered us up a space to where we can do that for bulk property and safekeeping. I think that's going to decrease the footprint. And then there's some other things. You know, during summers with bike patrols, getting deputies out of those cars and on bikes would be highly beneficial, because the general public, they don't typically walk up to a unit and knock on the window to talk to them. It's kind of a scary thing. It's kind of scary for us. It's scary for everybody. But a deputy on a bike is much more approachable, much more in touch with everybody. And I know a bunch of the other cities in our area, Dana Point, Mission Viejo, Laguna Hills, they've gone to the electric bikes. Those are hugely beneficial. They go up to about 28 or 25 miles an hour, so they can still respond off the beach, up Del Mar, and not be dead tired when they get there. There are some things out there technologically that we can do, and community policing-wise that we can do, that won't bankrupt the city. It won't, because the deputy's an expensive piece of merchandise. But some of this other stuff is one-time purchase type of thing.
I understand that there's maybe a few mules available to help get back and forth.
There's another thing, sir.
But I've been talking to our city manager, and I believe we are looking into some of the camera situation with the sheriff's department and how we can give access and share it. I think we have some cameras and spots that would help. Mm-hmm. The difficulty we have is getting it set up so you can actually access them and use them. You know, it's all based upon what kind of systems we have currently and how to interface with your systems and so on and so forth. So I know we're working on that, and putting up more cameras and make them accessible to you. I think that's been on my bucket list from the day I got on here. So we're still looking to do that.
And I have to compliment both James and Eric. It's already happening. I've had a tour with the station, with the IT, and they're already moving to put the monitors up in our report writing room and our briefing room, to where the deputies can not only see the MDC computers that they have in the car, which is imperative for our response times, as well as the public cameras that we have. So there can always be eyes, whether they're, because a lot of times deputies are writing reports. I believe 1,700 plus cases were submitted to investigations in 2018 for review. So that's 1,700 reports, and the deputies are writing, and there'll be a screen right there to where they can see all of the public cameras. If they see something that looks odd or looks dangerous, they can hit save and leave and do it. And I had a walk through last week with the city to where to put those monitors, and it's huge. It's huge, and I'm very thankful for that, as well as the city has offered to put some new carpet down there, some new paint. I mean, I'm being completely honest with you. I'm very thankful. So thank you for that.
Very welcome. Anything else? Anything else from anyone else? Thank you. I think we have Stephanie coming up.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having us. We are so thankful for the OCSD here in this city and the other cities we're contracted with. They've made it very clear and top priority for our safety. And when we go out with them and engage with homeless individuals, we have a lot more success than if we were just out there by ourselves. So our collaboration with them is a huge part of what we do, and we wouldn't be able to be successful in what we do without them. And Lieutenant Peters, wow, that's a hard act to follow, so he actually made my presentation much shorter, so thank you for that. I have a brief slideshow for you tonight. Okay. So this is Mercy House's mission statement. to be a leader in ending homelessness by providing a unique system of dignified housing opportunities, programs, and supportive services. If my executive director, Larry Haynes, were here tonight, he would say that our priority and our mission is housing first. So whatever we can do to get an individual off the street, obviously with their compliance and their interest, then that is top priority, and we are encouraged to look outside the box in order to make that happen. Just a really brief background on our agency. Founded in 1988, Housing First model. The services that we implement out in the field consist of making contact, making linkages, doing referrals to other agencies. That could be anything from medical services to social services to transportation to mental health to substance abuse, housing, shelter, and everything in between, really. In July of 2018, your city council approved us $75,000 to provide outreach services, and we take that very seriously, and our team is growing. We actually just brought on board another staff member. So we have 3 staff here in the city. Myself, I manage a team of outreach workers. I started as an outreach worker myself. I still do that in the city of Costa Mesa with the Network for Homeless Solutions there with their city program. But when I'm in South County, our team now is 5 strong, and we're in Dana Point as well as San Clemente, Mission Viejo, Lake Forest, and we have a few other cities coming online here within the next few months with the HEAP funds coming online. I just want to do a brief overview of our numbers, but first I just want you to know that I realize these numbers are low, and we've been discussing these numbers in our city meetings and our Mercy House meetings, and we were asking, because our numbers are not this low in other cities, and so we were trying to figure out why San Clemente. And the conclusions we came to, and this is a collaboration conclusion from OCSD, Mercy House, and other local agencies, is that a lot of our homeless community here in this city are native to this city, born and raised. They still have family here where they're in and out of homelessness, so technically they could go stay with family or relative for days or weeks, like when it's rainy. And then when the weather's nice, they can go live back outside again. So it's not a permanent housing situation, but it's temporary, and therefore they have no desire to go into a shelter or housing program in another city because San Clemente is all they know. Same thing goes with our new contacts. We have a lot of pass-throughers. Not that many people come to San Clemente and stay on the streets here. Either they're from here, which is the group I just spoke about, or they're here for a very short period of time and then they're on their way. And again, this is shown here with people being exited. That means that they've exited our street outreach program and we've gotten them into another kind of shelter or housing program. But again, our numbers are so low because people do not want to leave San Clemente. So even if we have another housing opportunity for them in another city, they decline our offer. And then the number of people given prevention, diversion, or housing, it was higher in January because we actually were able to house a family of 5. So since we started here in September, we have served 111 individuals. 42% of those were new contacts. Again, who had family or have family here in the city or are from San Clemente, born and raised. And then we've connected 19 individuals into housing or other housing programs and services. So, we love being here. We feel like we're making a difference. We've had a ton of support from the city and OCSD and all the other partnering agencies, and we hope to stay here and continue to make a difference because, as we all know, homelessness is not going anywhere. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. We just decided to put into place a program that we're funding vouchers for local stays at hotels so we can get somebody out of the cold and off the street, and out of sleeping in our parks and so on. Do you think that the voucher program that we just initiated is going to help you with your body count as far as increase the number of clients that you're able to assist and get off the street?
Yes and no. No, because I've been doing outreach now for a little over 5 years, and I think my partners would agree with me that in our environment is what we call a Band-Aid, where they're going to take advantage of the situation, obviously, to get off the street when we have inclement weather, but then, the next day or however many days that voucher is good for, they go right back to the street, and there's no long-term solution. Where I do see it being a benefit is for our families or our youth or our disabled seniors. I think it's great to have a program like that for those individuals who are highly vulnerable on the street.
One of the prior slides you had folks that were engaged with active services and outreach. Can you tell us a little bit about what that service and outreach looks like in terms of what you're doing for them?
Sure. So we partner with the healthcare agency, and we go out with them to provide individuals with medical care, whether they need to be signed up with Medi-Cal or a primary care physician, or they need to go to the hospital. We can call the paramedics on their behalf and actually meet them at the hospital and speak with the hospital social work and case management team if we've been following their case for some time. We assist them going to social services to enroll for CalFresh, CalWorks, General Relief, and those types of programs. We help with transportation. This city actually has an Uber account that they have allowed us to, because we're not allowed to transport individuals ourselves. And so that account with Uber really allows us to, put an individual in the car to take them to wherever they need to go in an emergency, and then we meet them there and we follow up on the appointment with them from there. Mental health services and substance abuse services are huge. We utilize the Mariblu Clinic in Aliso Viejo, which is the county's mental health clinic. They can walk in to receive mental health or detox services, rehab. And then we also partner a lot with local treatment centers for substance abuse. We meet a lot of youth that have been curbed out of sober living homes, and so we try to either get them back into a sober living home, or if they're from another state, that's when we use the Homeward Bound program to contact family or a program back in their state and purchase the ticket to get them back to their support system.
And then I think you mentioned some folks are resistant to services. Are you keeping track of those as well?
We are, yes, and unfortunately that percentage is very high. It's about 50%.
Okay. And that's specific to San Clemente?
Yes, and across the board.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I also do want to add that the city is working with the county and others. Did I just take your thunder?
No.
With the county and others on housing, on shelter. I think that Lieutenant Peters came up and said, well, where are you going to put it? Well, there are places where we're working with it within the confines of what we're able to do. And I think we've come up with some good ideas. It's a matter of fleshing them out and getting them going. So although there are many frustrations across the board, in regarding our transient issues. We are seeing some light, and we are seeing some direction that we need to continue going. So that's all I wanted to add. Go ahead, Eric.
No. I just wanted to give a big thanks to Stephanie, but we also have one of our outreach workers out there that I couldn't say no to, which is Carol. She's out there, and she's one of our staff workers. Wave hello. And then Lieutenant Peters stepped out, but another very integral part of this solution is OCSD, and we're very, very fortunate. We have a Deputy Zill, who is our HLO, our Homeless Liaison Officer, and so we meet weekly with the team, and Zill has been fantastic with regards to assisting Mercy House and also making a lot of contacts in the community as it relates to homelessness. So I just wanted to give a shout out, because without Zill, there would be an issue of success that we wouldn't have, but he's amazing, so thank you. And these presentations will be put on our website tomorrow morning as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the audience who wish to address council on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the City of San Clemente, but not separately listed on the agenda, may do so during the oral communications portion of the meeting. A total time limitation of 30 minutes is allocated for oral communications part 1, with each speaker being allotted 3 minutes in which to give his or her presentation, and I do have a few cards.
Our first card is Christopher Graff.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Chris Graff is my name, longtime resident. In fact, Lieutenant Peters, I've been here my whole life, along with my wife. Parents moved here in 1961, the year I was born. We finally saved up over all the years and finally moved down to South Ola Vista in San Clemente. Got down in the southwest part of San Clemente, where we've a long time wanted to live. We bought over a year ago, and like the mission statement for San Clemente is to provide a safe environment for people to live. I had no idea how scary it was at that street corner where we live, at Gaviota. Since the 30th of December, and 2 weeks later, we've had 2 car accidents right there at our street. Talking to our neighbors, unfortunately they couldn't make it here tonight and said they'd write in or come see you. There's been 4 cars that have ran into the house next to us. There's been 8 accidents across the street from us, and it's all right where the dip is at the corner of Gaviota and on Ola Vista southbound of Gaviota. It's a total public safety issue. The one we saw a couple weeks right after the first of the year, kids lost control, hit the dip, crashed into the wall. 2 minutes earlier, a mother with 2 double stroller and dog were walking right there. There would have been no way for them to move. They left the scene. And my hat's off to the law enforcement. I did my 30-year law enforcement career, and I know that it's tough for them. They can't keep an eye on all the speeders. We need to do something engineering-wise to warn the public about the curb there. I'm sure you're aware of the area. I wasn't aware until now. And after I realized the history, I can't believe nothing's been done. There's no sign that says curve, no sign that says dip. I mean, maybe even putting Boz dots down on the Ola Vista so cars roll over, it slows them down. But if they wouldn't have hit and totaled the two cars in the driveway of our neighbor, they would have been in my front bedroom. So just asking you guys to take attention to that and address the safety issue. Thanks.
Thank you.
If I may, Mayor, did you have information on your speaker card with regards to a phone number, sir?
Yes.
So we'll reach out to Mr. Graff with our transportation division and set up a meeting to discuss the issue specifically. So you'll get a call later this week.
Our next speaker is Beth Apodaca.
Hi, my name is Beth Apodaca. I'm the director of the Dorothy Visser Senior Center. So I thought I'd come down today. This is another item on the agenda. So I just thought maybe I'd take a few minutes to kind of update everybody on our spring programs that are going on and the things that the Senior Center offers to help the older adults here in the community. We host all the Emeritus Saddleback classes ourselves and a few other locations. There are art classes, exercise classes. They're all available to the citizens of San Clemente. They just need to register through the college, and there's no charge for any of them to take the classes. So we are just the host facility for them. We have a lot of other classes that we have there. We have art classes. We have a gym where our seniors can come down and work out. We are very blessed. We have a computer lab. On Wednesdays, we have a gentleman that comes in and helps our seniors work on their computers. And on Thursday, we're very blessed to have Kyle Schwartz come down and help seniors, and some of us who are not seniors, with our cell phones. He has a patience of a saint, is all I want to say. Both of them do. In addition to providing a hot meal there every day for our seniors and lots of outgoing activities, we have a lot of doctor talks. And so our doctor talk coming up on February 28th, and it's being sponsored by Memorial Care. It's called Medical Cannabis Promoting Health Without Creating Potheads. So it's a very fun topic. I did not come up with the title. I leave that to the doctor who will be performing. There's a lot of things that we have going on down there, and for those that can't get to the center, we are the provider of Meals on Wheels. We provide case management for our seniors who are shut in, or seniors that need some assisted help. We do high cap counseling, which, as we all are approaching that Medicare age and time, we have the counselors come in, they're unbiased, they represent everything. So they just want to help everyone go into the next phase of our lives. Anyway, and we also do have transportation that is provided to bring you to the center, or you can go to the grocery stores in the community, because so many seniors have to give up their driver's license. And many of us have seen those on the street, and it is a true blessing to not take away their complete independence. So they get an opportunity to go to the places that they want and come down. And let's see, we have, who else? Oh, and Chris Ham, I want to thank him. He came down the other day just to kind of check out the facility and kind of look about some of the security and things on the building down there. So I just want to thank him for taking an interest in coming down. So everyone's welcome to come visit us anytime. We're having a big bingo fundraiser on March 23rd that's going to help finance some of the programs that we put on there at the center. And so I just want to thank everyone for your time and effort this evening. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want you to know that Kyle did negotiate with his new employer, Del Taco, to make sure he gets Thursdays off so that he can go and see his people.
Okay, let me tell you, he is a true blessing.
All right, next is Queen Kathy, no, I'm sorry, Jim Bieber.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My comments are going to deal with the Constitution and be a little bit of a civics lesson. Last time I spoke, and a few times since, Councilwoman Kathy Ward has decreed and made a statement that members of the public are forbidden from speaking directly to members of the council during their presentations. So to be clear, Mr. Mayor, I am going to stop addressing you directly, and I'm going to specifically be speaking to solely Councilwoman Ward. My comments are to chastise her personally for her actions as an elected official. They're designed to cause her grief and discomfort. So I am now going to speak to her directly.
Mr. Bieber?
Yes.
First of all, you're addressing the public.
Yes.
And the council. You
Correct.
are not to do specific addresses to any individual council member.
Mr. Mayor, you're wrong. Mr. Mayor, you're wrong. And there's case law on this, and you're interrupting me. And furthermore, it's against the First Amendment, and it's against the Brown Act, and you're not allowed to interrupt me.
So what you're telling me is that the county of Orange County, which I just went to, that said the same thing at the beginning of their public input, that you're not allowed to directly address any individual on the board, that's a violation of Brown Act.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'll be sure to let the Board of Supervisors know where you stand.
At the end of this, and by the way, you're going to have to reset the clock because I'm not here to be interrupted. Thank you. As I mentioned, my comments are directed directly to Councilwoman Ward. At the end of this, you have a crack attorney here that can go ahead and Google what the ACLU wrote on this and several case laws. And if, Ms. Ward, you feel very strongly that I'm violating the law, you can direct the sheriff to arrest me. You can do it. You're smirking at me right now, In the past, I've seen your mouth move verbally where you've said asshole, asshole, while I speak loud enough for others to hear it. You say that, and you're shaking your head no, but that's fine. Again, if you think that I'm violating the law, call the sheriff. Over the election, he took several bizarre acts as a candidate. One of them was to foster and plant an article in the OC Weekly that contained numerous slanderous statements against myself, a member running for council, and another individual. Within, I believe, 13 hours, that article was taken off the OC Weekly. You continued to post that article, even though it was taken down, and disseminate that on Facebook. And then he wrote, the TCA is so afraid their plan will be found out before the election that they put pressure on the OC Weekly to take down their article. And you continued to post that article using a PDF format. The author of the article from the OC Weekly wrote, and this was published, "Dear Mr. Bieber, I would like to apologize to you, your family, and the community for the post Friday. I was wrong in interpreting the direct mail business that you have as being employed by the candidates." It goes on to say, "Additionally, I was further wrong interpreting your actions with Measure V as being some ulterior motive or profit motive. That was my mistake. In reality, you are a concerned citizen who cares about the city. Lastly, the information I received about your connection with the Lake Forest candidate Voights and Nick was false. All the articles about you supporting the toll road through San Clemente and the TCA bullying me into pulling this article are also false. I didn't want to drag this out as long as it has. I hope this can help set the record straight." Even after the author of the article that you disseminated denounced his own work, said that the information he got from we know who, you continue to disseminate it. This author from the OC Weekly had the decency as a human to write, "I'd like to apologize to you, your family, and your community for what he posted." I'm going to ask you if you've got the decency as a human being to apologize to the community for continuing to post that article even after the author himself apologized for all the falsehoods that he was fed and posted it. So my question to you, Ms. Ward, is do you have the decency to be as big as that individual who wrote it?
Mayor, if I could, this is for comments to the council, no Q&A, and it has to do with something within the jurisdiction
I
of the
cannot
city.
be interrupted. Mr. Mayor, the law allows me to speak for and not be interrupted.
Yes,
it's
20
called
seconds.
a heckler's veto, and you can't do that. Are you clear? Who's breaking the law here? Again.
There were 20 seconds left on the clock. I just wanted to raise that correction.
Okay, well, I don't expect my elected officials or their employees continue to break the law and interrupt me and violate the Brown Act. And Kathy, live up to it. Call the sheriff and tell them that I'm violating the law. As a citizen, a public cannot address.
And your time is up.
Their elected official.
Thank you. Tony.
Good evening, Council. I'd like to take a little bit of time to share with the public events that have transpired over the past month. In January, several citizens, including myself, met with Mr. Maxinoff, the city manager, to convey concerns regarding a pattern of municipal code violations committed by Mr. Sun, the assistant city manager. Mr. Maxinoff attempted to explain away many of our concerns, which were thoroughly detailed and cited and referenced. My favorite explanation that I heard was in response to the city employee survey, was that the union rep decided that one of the best courses of action was to ask Mr. Sun to smile more in response to the fear and intimidation that the city employees were feeling and that they voiced through the employee survey. Our final ask at that meeting was that he investigate the allegations to protect the city and its citizens. A few days later, Mr. Maxinoff responded to an email inquiry and, quote, he wrote, At this time, I do not plan to move forward on the demand that you made at the end of the meeting. Just a reminder, too, that the city manager, one of the core responsibilities is to investigate complaints, and it looks like that he was not willing to pursue our concerns that we brought up as tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. The employee survey comment also included, which I referenced here in a previous council session, was, quote, rumor is there are a number of lawsuits against Eric in the process, and also claims have been filed at the federal and state level against Eric. When this information was presented back in September, Councilmember Ward asked Mr. Maxinoff afterwards, quote, are there lawsuits currently against the city manager? And of course, the answer was no. And I don't know if it was a play on words or if it was the wrong question to be asked. Perhaps what the correct question was, are there any claims or lawsuits currently against the assistant city manager? I'd be curious as to what the response would be then. And I noticed also that closed session earlier today that it would listed 2 new cases of anticipated litigation identified. I'm curious if this all ties in together, if the litigation that's now being brought up, where we're already strapped for funds, the city's currently trying to look at ways to generate revenue, curb litigation, and now more funds are going to be tied up to address these cases, perhaps taking away from valuable options that we could be putting in for infrastructure, additional deputies and whatnot. In summary, the glaring problems with the performance of the ACM were identified. The CM refused to investigate the allegations violating his own core responsibility. And my plea to council is to dig deep and perhaps make the difficult decisions that need to be done so that the city can heal and move forward and we can work together in progress. Thank you.
Okay. Could we have a motion to waive reading in full of all resolutions and ordinances?
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved and second. No, without objection? Approved.
Okay. Closed session report, City Attorney.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. We did have some reportable action, not from this meeting, but from the last meeting. On that closed session agenda at your last meeting, there was an item of real estate negotiations, and we wanted to disclose that one of those negotiations now has been consummated. It was parking amendment to a parking license with Roca Vista Investments. That amendment was approved by council, has since been signed by the other party to that agreement, and so we need to announce that motion to approve passed in closed session on a unanimous vote of the council. That's it.
Okay. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion unless council, staff, or the public request removal of an item for separate discussion and action. Staff is asking that item 6N be removed from the agenda. The scope of that contract needs to be modified.
I'd like to request to remove item 6O and just make one small modification request to the minutes from council minutes, please. 6O. Mm-hmm.
What item number is the council minutes?
6A.
Oh, 6A. Thank you.
Actually pull 6F as well.
Okay, so 6F has been removed, 6A has been removed. We've pulled out 6F and 6O. Anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to move the rest.
A motion to move the rest.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Joanne, do you need a motion on 6N? No?
No.
Okay.
So now F.
No, A.
I'm sorry, I thought we voided A, I thought.
It was pulled.
I'm sorry. A.
Okay, just under the minutes, council minutes, under Community Choice Energy, shows as D here on page 20. Just in response to council inquiry, just make it consistent with the others naming the council members, city manager, full names in response to Councilmember Laura Ferguson's inquiry. That's all I'm asking.
Did you want to then move this?
Sure, I'll motion to move the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
aye, moved. Item F.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm Ken Natz, Principal Civil Engineer. I'm covering for Director Vonnegut tonight.
Great. And I pulled this mostly just because I got a helpful email earlier today explaining sort of why the prefabricated bathroom is as expensive as it is. And I know in the past there's been some community outcry about bathroom costs.
Definitely.
I learned a lot about prevailing wage and how things are getting more expensive, so I wanted you to explain that for the public who might look at this and think, wow, this is an expensive prefabricated bathroom.
Sure. We've gone through this process here a couple times. We did the Pier restroom. It's kind of the, the iconic restroom down there. It was the $500,000 restroom. The community knew it as that. Understand the concern. When we vetted these projects, we budgeted these, and then they went through the design process. As you know, we have some requirements for Spanish colonial revival architecture that increases our cost of our facilities by a little bit. So there's some cost drivers with our Spanish tile and our wrought iron finishes. However, just the construction in general, really the cost of construction is going up. I mentioned to Councilmember Bain today, just through an email correspondence, about why is it so expensive. Construction costs, obviously, over the last, I mentioned 2 years in my email, but it's more than 2 years. We have construction costs going up double digits over the last couple of years, both material and labor. That's highly due to some of the tariffs that are going on, some of the trade issues, as well as fuel prices. So it is a tough pill to swallow, but we did do some cost comparison. We referenced some city facilities that we constructed as part of our reservoir sites. We did some concrete masonry unit buildings for chemical storage at our reservoir sites. They were the same exact square footage as our restrooms that we were designing with this prefab company. And the cost comparisons actually came in cheaper. And these restroom facilities are a little bit higher end than the chemical storage buildings. Obviously, they've got fixtures and lights. The chemical storage buildings are pretty just bare bone buildings. So when we compared the cost from an actual bid from about a year ago to today's current prices, the prices were revised upwards. The initial estimates, were a little bit lower. We felt that it was a compelling number. A traditional design bid build process takes an architectural design. You have to go through a permit and plan approval process. There's cost, I would assume, or estimate that a cost of a restroom design is going to be in and around $50,000. So we're kind of building that into this construction cost immediately. And I think those are some of the big factors, really. It's the increase in cost with the tariffs and the fuel. All the good contractors are really busy. If you find a contractor who doesn't have a current job, you have to wonder why. When we went through the downturn in the economy, a lot of these contractors who were, kind of just barely hanging on, were trying to do public works jobs. They were doing home construction jobs, and they've kind of been wiped out of the market. So really, there's a smaller pool of professional contractors doing this type of work. The environment is such that it's so competitive that everybody's trying to undercut each other in the bidding process that we're seeing some of these numbers go up. So again, when we compared the costs from the standpoint of looking at an actual bid to a prefabricated design, we felt it was very compelling. It accelerates the delivery of the project, and it gives us probably a better end product because it's manufactured in a facility with better quality, with quality control processes. Not that we're not doing that through our inspection processes, but it's a little bit more of a controlled environment. We also, just as a side note, City of Mission Viejo, as well as City of Murrieta, have been doing these restrooms with these prefabricated companies, so we've reached out to them. Mission Viejo's done 4 of them in total. Murrieta's done 1. When talking to their project managers, they told us that they had gone through some of the same processes we went through with the design, bid, build, and suffered some of the same pain that we did as we did in the restroom. If you think about the beach restroom, the one at the base of Pier, that one was a shell that we remodeled. So, really, I can understand the public outcry with the cost because, hey, it's a $500,000 for a shell that we remodeled. This, we're getting a brand new restroom, brand new facility, brand new utilities, brand new fixtures. So it's kind of a brand new structure from the ground up. So we do feel that it's a good product for the city, and we would recommend that you approve this to move it forward.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I just wanted to make sure the public was aware that we are looking at cost and making sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck, so.
Thank you, Councilmember.
And I'm sure you have no clue, but in my private life and my professional life, I got involved with the relocatable building industry probably 35 years ago. When the state did, if you remember, they passed the law regarding relocatable classrooms to reduce classroom size, and all places had to have a relocated classroom, and I happen to have the accounts that actually built those. So I am intimately aware of the manufacturing facilities that actually build these things and the quality that comes through it. What they also need to understand is they're still not exempt from inspections. They actually get inspected while they're on the line. They'll start at one end of the factory, and it's all on rollers, and they start going and they roll it through, and at various stages they stop, and then the inspector comes in and inspects it. So they inspect the electrical, they inspect everything about it, so that when we get it, we have you have a quality building that meets it. Usually the prices are not like, as high as stick built. But yeah, it's been an interesting last couple of years in the construction industry, and also we have to deal with prevailing wages as far as on the site goes. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question, if I may, and I'm sure those watching might be wondering, will the bathroom stalls have doors?
Yes, we know the current facility does not, and yes, they will.
And no windows in the walls, please.
There will be none. There's some architectural, I think corbels is what they call them, but there's no windows.
Then I'll entertain a motion.
So I'll move to approve item 6F and adopt staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Unanimous.
And just real quick with regards to Vista Bahia, one of the other components, I think it's a good time to bring it up, is the concessionaire stand. So the plans were final today, and the contractor's coming in tomorrow to pay the plans and pick up the permits so that they can begin the tenant improvements relative to the concessionaire as well. So that's going forward as well.
And now we have O,
which is hours of operation of public restrooms located west of the I-5. I do have a public speaker card on this one.
Mr. Mayor, this agenda item, as it's stated in here, is going to cost $6,740. I'm very concerned that the city cannot afford to do this. As you know, that we're going to be running into deficit spending coming up quickly, and part of that is because the city's been out of control by filing lawsuit upon lawsuit and being sued because of the actions of council members. Specifically, a lawsuit that we've been embroiled into that was launched by Kathy Ward. This lawsuit was against Sovereign Health. As we recall, the city went on a bizarre quest to tackle sober living homes by lumping them together with everything and attempting to ban them outright, not taking a logical point of view as other cities did. The outcome of that lawsuit was that they were allowed to open up more houses. The most bizarre part about it was that in the settlement agreement with Sovereign Health was put in a confidentiality clause where the public would never have access to know why it was brought, the details of the lawsuit, and they were going to put in a penalty for anybody speaking about it. Well, Sovereign popped off, and they said in the newspaper.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think this is about this
And the
expenditure anymore.
You cannot interrupt
You have
me,
to
and
speak
you've
to the
interrupted me.
matter.
This is the second
And
time you've interrupted me.
it's a point of
You
order.
cannot interrupt
You
me.
can either talk about this subject
How much did this
specifically-
lawsuit cost? And I'm going to get into the details of why. Can we afford?
You're excused.
No, I am not.
You're excused.
No.
Lieutenant?
I can discuss the costs of lawsuits and how they relate to paying for overtime. It is allowed. Mr. Smith, are you going to advise him that I could be arrested for speaking about budgetary manners?
I don't think it needs to come to that, but I think you need to speak to the item.
I am speaking about the cost of litigation. And are we going to be
There
able
is
to
no
afford
litigation on this item.
a cost to the city? Can we afford it? It is the question, and I have the ability to discuss costs that the city's spending. And you can't tell me I can't.
I think you have to tie it into this expenditure, and you've gone pretty
The
far afield.
$6,000 that
That's
we're
all I'm
spending.
looking for.
All right, I started out by saying that, didn't I?
Yeah, but that
Were
was
you listening?
a
I
small
said,
fraction of what you said.
no, I said the cost of doing this is tied into litigation. And Kathy, you've got your smirk on again, and you're interrupting me again, and you're both violating the Brown. Well, Scott, you're violating it by interrupting me. I am allowed to speak. Can we afford to do this? No, because we've got out-of-control lawsuits brought on by Kathy Ward in which we're embroiled in a lawsuit.
Again, stay strictly on this item.
The lawsuit that we have hurts the city's ability to pay for extended hours because of the actions of a particular thin-skinned, intellectually challenged council person who demanded that the city sue for violation of confidentiality because they said the outcome of the agreement was a win-win for them and the city. And now we've spent tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars pursuing a lawsuit that makes it difficult to fund restrooms.
I'll entertain a motion to pass.
Oh, yes, I pulled this item because I'm just concerned that with the closures, bathroom closures from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., they're not aligned with the beach closure hours, which are midnight to 4 a.m. So is that okay to talk about this?
Yeah, but
Okay.
the beach closures for camping on the beach.
Well, midnight to 4, right?
Yeah.
Midnight to 4. Anyway, so I just, there's joggers, there's people fishing. I just would love to see one bathroom that's not closed all night long for use. I mean, we've got 4.7 miles of beaches, and there's no bathroom at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. People run, jog. I mean, I exercise very early. So I just have a hard time seeing all of them being closed for this length of time till 6:30, because you've got literally 4.5 hours of no bathroom use after the beaches open. So I would like to modify that. And I also look back to see when these were, this pilot was implemented for the closures at night, and I read some stories about how there was 4 to 5 acts of vandalism each month, and causing about $70,000 of damage a year. And I'm just curious what kinds of damage that was, because so many of our bathrooms are cinder block and more prison grade.
I happen to be, I remember, because I was on Parks and Rec during a lot of that, and we had stalls ripped out. We had sinks broken, literally smashed. We had toilets destroyed. We've had the restrooms completely torn apart.
And we haven't had that kind of damage in the daytime since the bathrooms are open.
Right.
So the night has really curtailed that, the night closures. Yeah, I'd still like to see one restroom facility, even if it's probably the one at the end of the pier, on the pier, not the base of the pier, but on the pier, be open and not be closed all night, just for use of people that frequent the beach. I just don't want to see that be closed from 10 o'clock till 6:30 a.m.
Okay, Kathy?
We had a long discussion when we set this up, and we looked at that, and there's other beach cities, specifically Seal Beach, that has had this in place for many years.
Yeah, I saw
And
the
all of their
cities.
residents and visitors know that those parkways along Bolsa Chica, where they're bathrooms are not going to be open until 6:30, and they're all aware of it, and it's worked out fine.
Right, I saw the cities, I researched
Okay.
Dana Point, San Juan Capistrano
So
has some
that's-
limitations on
That's kind of
theirs.
our thinking of
Laguna Beach.
why we did that.
Yeah, we have a fishing pier, I would just like to see it open.
I don't have a personal issue if we wanted to extend the fishing pier to midnight.
My only issue is staff. We're already paying this amount
to
to
go
get
lock
staff
it?
there. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
we would do that at that time.
I would ask Recreation Manager Samantha Thomas if that was the wish of the council. There probably would be a different cost impact involved because our park monitors or now park rangers start a round of closing restrooms, and typically, correct me if I'm wrong, they end at the base of, or the end of the pier as their last stop, so that restroom's open the longest. But if there was a want by the council to have that closed at midnight, we would have to probably come back to the council for additional money. Am I incorrect in that?
No, that's absolutely correct. We originally started locking the base of pier first, and then the park rangers would go to the end of the pier, they'd work their way down the beach, and then land with the park restrooms towards the end of their shift. We did receive phone calls with concerns from the lobster fishermen that are out on the pier, and we respect that, so we actually shifted the end of pier closure to the end of their shift, which is typically around 11 or 11:30. I think it's valuable to remember that locking the restrooms, when this came to council back in 2017, it's a little over $60,000 annually just to lock them and staff costs. And part of that is we do have to send 2 rangers out together because it's a little bit of a safety in numbers, and there's a little bit more strength in that. And we learned that through the pilot program. So this $47,000 annually would be to just unlock them in the morning. And I will say that through the pilot program, it was managed by our landscape maintenance contractors. It was costing about $3,000 a month, and it was not happening in a timely fashion. We did get complaints that restrooms weren't open even until 10 a.m., which in our view is unacceptable, and we appreciate that. So we can guarantee that the rangers are on staff, they're going to be scheduled, they'll be out there on time, and it's roughly about a 50% cost savings from the maintenance contractors doing it in the morning, and it gives us a little bit more control.
Was there a request for proposal issued for this?
No, this was done internally through.
We probably should see if we could do it cheaper. 50,000 is a lot of money.
The current contractors that Recreation Manager Thomas is referring to as our current landscape contractors that manage the grounds at the base of pier and along the trail as well, and clean those restrooms. So the logical idea was to reach out to them to see if they could open them as well.
Yeah, it's always good to see what someone, what other vendors might be able to do this for, if just for the locking of the restrooms. But that's good to know, Ms. Wiley, that the pier restroom is open till 11:30 p.m. That's not in the report, so I could be satisfied with that. That's good.
I will say that I did reach out, and initially when this first came to council, I did look at private security companies. I know Dana Point has used them in the past. They are significantly more expensive. I mean, they pay their staff about $30 to $40 an hour, and that's the cost that we would incur. So our rangers are a more affordable option. I mean, again, it gives us the guarantee that we can provide the most control possible to make sure they're on time to get them through their route in a timely fashion as well. So.
Well, maybe Mr. Sun can answer this. What is the minimum, the minimum contract amount for us to go out to RFP? Is there?
Depending on the type of level of service, if it's professional services, there is a purchasing policy that's established that has different thresholds that go from $10,000 to $25,000 to a formal threshold, and then if it's more of we'll say, request for services like janitorial, those always exceed the threshold and go out to a formal invitation to bid or RFP process.
And your decision whose decision was it to not do that with this one?
We have park rangers already existing, or park monitors previously, and staff, and the flexibility that they have with regards to all the different sites, and also going out to those sites and patrolling those parks as part of their duties. The nexus seemed to make sense to also incorporate the locking and unlocking because they're already out there, I'll say, patrolling those public spaces.
Thanks.
And actually, I kind of like the idea of having our rangers out there opening them and closing them. Because at the same time, we know that they're at least patrolling them, first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So that, I think, goes to an added public safety factor that we're not including in this, but it's not costing us anything more, but we are getting some eyes looking around at our sites, and I'm assuming that should they see something, they will say something to the right people.
Yes.
So yeah, and also just as someone who's involved extremely much in public works bidding, I want every contract to go to bid. That's where I make my money, and when you guys have to post a bond. But it costs all public entities to put together the RFP. There is a lot of cost involved, and if you already have someone doing something as an add-on, it kind of makes sense to do that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else on this?
Yeah, I'll move the motion. Let me pull this.
Second.
Move item
6-0.
6-0. Staff recommendation to approve the locking of all public restrooms west of I-5 on city beaches and in city parks from 10 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. on a regular basis. Approve a supplemental appropriation of $6,740 to account number 001-624-410-3000-000 for part-time park ranger salaries.
Is there a second? We got it. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carried.
Next item is a report from the Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Department concerning the possibility of the city entering into a recreation sports partnership agreement with San Clemente Youth Rugby.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Samantha Wiley, Recreation Manager. So before you tonight is a brief report regarding another partnership request that we had come in. This is our 6th partnership that we would be entering into. The Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Commission did review this item. They recommended, as it reflects in the report, granting a gold partnership status to San Clemente Youth Rugby. And staff have gone back and done our due diligence, and we've learned that while San Clemente Youth Rugby does have over 200 participants, and that is the requirement for gold, they're just shy of the total residency percentage required, which is 80% residency. So they fall at about 233 total participants and 71% residency. So they're just barely at the below the gold level. So staff recommendation is to maintain that silver level for 1 year. They feel confident that 1 year will give them, the organization can come back and potentially increase their residency rates, and they'd be thrilled to have gold, but they did originally apply for silver, so they're happy to have whatever. And this organization has done a tremendous job of introducing rugby to San Clemente kids. They've really transformed their organization over the last several years, moving from a club organization to a recreation-based group and exposing all of our children to rugby at different stages. So staff recommendation as it stands is to support the silver partnership for 1 year.
Any questions? My nephew-in-law would love the fact that we're getting rugby here. He played that in college.
Yes.
So if there's nothing else, I'll take action on it.
So I'll move item 9A and to approve the staff recommendation to grant silver partnership status.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have the motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimous.
Oral Communications Part 2, I don't have any speaker cards. City Manager?
very briefly, just wanted to communicate to the council in your packets today, you received the 2018 CAFR. That is already on the city's transparency page for anyone to review as it relates to our comprehensive annual financial report. So just wanted to promote that, and that's all I have. Thank you.
City Attorney?
I've got nothing more tonight. Thank you.
Council members?
I have a couple items, if I may. I shared with the city manager about a week ago an idea. Mayor Pro Tem Dan Bain and I were actually chatting about it and thought it might be great for our community to have a community homeless town hall. And really just with so many, as we all know, emails to the city and more reports from citizens and concerns, as Lieutenant Peters shared tonight, about what we can or cannot do within the confines of the law, and bring together, it's really a multi-agency effort, and bring together the different groups to be part of a panel. And much like the city hosted the Toll Road Forum last fall. So just to do a little due diligence, I did contact a few of our representative offices at the staff, and they said they'd be delighted to partner with us, but I'd like to just see if there's consensus among our council members here to host such a town hall in San Clemente.
Did you talk to anyone over at our Human Affairs Committee?
No, I did not yet, but I'd love to involve them. So far, I spoke with the supervisor's office, our 5th district supervisor, and assembly member's office and senator's office. And I do have a call into Congressman Levin's office, because he's expressed, again, also like the others, quite an interest in homelessness and finding solutions. I spoke with his DC staff and wrote his local district director this morning.
Okay, but since we have Human Affairs and this really falls within their auspices, who's the staff member that deals with this?
Cecilia Gallardo-Daly that manages that committee.
Okay. That'd be great. I know I met with Tyler Bowden on the Human Affairs Committee. He's been on the committee for 6 months now, and we had coffee about 3 weeks ago. And
he's making the rounds.
He did, and he actually mentioned to me that he would hope that they could add the homelessness issues to their goals as a committee.
Well, when I was on it for a relatively short time, we did quite a bit at that time. This is years ago, though. Discuss the homeless issue. I'm surprised it didn't come back already. Anything else?
No, I think it has, and I think the committee actually made a recommendation to the city manager already, so I know they've been talking about the homeless issue, and I'd be supportive, as Laura already knows, of having a homeless town hall. Having just come off an election, as Laura did, I know that was the prime issue beyond the toll road that people were concerned and wanted to hear more about, so I would definitely be supportive of some sort of a town hall.
Why don't you talk to staff then and look at what the goals would be? Because I'm hearing two different things. We're trying to educate people on what homeless is, and we're trying to solve it. So I'm not sure what the purpose of a town hall would be. So I think it has to be worked out a little more.
It would encompass everything. And I work in Encinitas, and I attended one after work last spring, a homeless town hall forum, and it was incredible, standing room only. And they had, of course, the social service groups there talking about the resources, the sheriffs there talking about the laws, the mayor was part of it, and also was other groups too that they work with, Community Resource Center, which is comparable to our FAM here. And they also had a gentleman who was homeless on the streets for 2.5 years in Encinitas. And he was helped by the partnership of the city and with their Community Resource Center, and wrote a book about homelessness, and it was really inspiring. But anyway, so I was thinking to have all facets involved in this town hall forum, and of course an opportunity for people to speak as well.
Yeah, and you need to bring in our local players too.
Absolutely.
Mercy House and everything else.
Absolutely.
FAM. No, I consensus-wise, I think I would support it also, but I agree with Kathy. I would like to know, what the goal is of it, and I would suggest that maybe our two newest council members would like to form their own little two-person committee and go ahead and work with staff and seeing what would be good to put it together, to bring it to fruition and bring it back to us.
Thank you. And may I also include the Human Affairs Committee, because you touched on them, maybe
Yes.
a member from the Human Affairs Committee?
Yes.
Okay,
No,
great.
you could bring in a couple civilians. I mean, just, you two would be kind of honchoing it, but, bring in some members from, I'm sure Tyler would like to jump in on it. So you can bring in some community people to help
Okay.
with it. I would bring someone from, Mercy House, possibly to work with you, on the program and so on.
Excellent.
So maybe even FAM, and the Sheriff Department. So between all of you guys to work on it, I'm sure Sheriff Zill would be more than happy to step in and help on some things. Anyway, so yeah, I think so. So we're on consensus on that?
Yeah, share what you saw there, and then we could figure out what the need is, because I'm not sure whether it's actually a community center need or it should be here in these chambers, because we've had other forums before and we've held them here, and it was able to house anyone that came.
Yeah. Well, let's let them figure out what
Yeah,
what's
that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
Great.
What I'm
Thank you.
thinking, we'll coordinate a meeting with both Councilmember Ferguson and Mayor Pro Tem Bain and the Human Affairs, and we'll set some goal setting to come up with some parameters and a format.
What it would take.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
And then,
Thank you.
am I to understand that comes back then to council? Is that what you said? Okay. All right.
And we covered it, so I don't.
So, Laura, did you have any more? Just didn't want to, okay. So, one of the things that I wanted to discuss, and I know last year we did a staff survey as part of sort of the employment, all that we've done. I did some digging, and a lot of cities do, well, no, a lot of cities, but I know it's sort of standard practice for the California League of Cities to bring in a third party to take a look at doing a third party staff survey, staff review type process. And I wanted to take a look at doing that, evaluate cost of that, number one, to see how much that's going to cost us, and look at doing another city staff survey.
Okay, because I thought the one we did was done by a third party.
It was not. It was not done by a third party.
The previous employee satisfaction survey was kind of a collaborative effort with the HR manager and then also some representatives from our association who worked on the questions that were finalized for that survey. And then,
Okay, but we didn't bring in a third party?
No,
to do
sir,
it.
we did not.
Well, why don't you flesh it out?
So yeah, so I mean, look, I do a lot of the hiring and firing at my office, and what we do every couple of years is we bring in a third party, so that there's evaluation of manager, staff, everyone involved, and it's a format that allows anonymity, so you can get feedback from all the employees. It's done by a third party. They help work with the administrators, others in the employment environment to come up with questions and get an aim of what you're trying to evaluate as part of the survey. And then they do the survey, and the results are given to the administrators. And I think in this instance, we'd want, as a council, to have the results come back to us. Let's take a look at it. So that's what I'm envisioning.
All right, so could you, a little more, flesh it out a little bit more, what kind of, if you can give us some examples of some of the cities that have done it?
Well, I pull the California League of Cities, but the California League of Cities has, as part of their manual, this is a standard practice. So I can't identify other cities that have done it, but I believe California League of Cities has.
I know, but I was just thinking if we can find some of our local cities that have done it, we can talk to them about the event, who they use to do it. It would be some good input for us.
And that would be part of coming back, and I would definitely ask for all that.
I have one concern, I don't, Scott, if you could speak to this, or Eric. These are public employees, and these are usually done through HR, I believe, and I don't think it's normal practice for them to come straight to us. It usually goes through HR and the union, and then we might see it. But I don't know that it's necessarily usually a report straight back to us when it involves people's employment. That's my concern. Because one of the components that he said is it comes straight back to us. And I don't know that I'm ready to approve that part. Well, because I'm not sure that all the procedures, this is public employment law.
Well, it's anonymous, number one, so there's.
I agree, but I think there's a right to employees for privacy, and I'm not sure it coming straight to us. Plus, what does it do for us? If it's to improve employees' working environment, it should go to their managers. I'm not sure the purpose.
So the purpose is to evaluate the employment satisfaction in the city, to identify areas where there's opportunities for improvement, to find out what we're doing well. And ultimately, we, as the city council, direct the city manager who directs the employees. So I think it would be appropriate for it to come back to us. And if it needs to come back in a closed session, then I think that could be looked at and appropriate. But I think it's important that each of us is able to put our eyes on that as well, so we can direct the city manager appropriately.
Well, one of the things I think would normally happen is the city managers would tell us how they're going to implement anything that came up in it. So it still goes through all the ranks.
Yeah.
It's not just going to go straight to us. It should
No.
go through every.
I wouldn't expect it to, but I don't think we
normal
need to worry about
process.
where the report is going until we decided to go ahead and do it. And I think that would be part of the decision-making when it comes back of doing it as to how, and we're going to have council advise us on that, as to how employment, public employment it needs to be protected, and how we deal with that report and everything else. So, and if you're able to get us a name of some company that's done it for local cities, then we can deal with the city, how they dealt with it, and then we've already got someone that broke ground, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel again. Okay?
And maybe to manage expectations for the council, as we do due diligence in terms of we're a member of the League of Cities, and we can reach out to them for their resources. As part of our budget process, we can basically bring forward a decision package that highlights the cost or the estimated cost, and then also we can cover the process, and council can provide direction as to how they want that process to flow. And then if it's adopted within the budget, then we begin the process thereafter if that's satisfactory.
It's going to have to be a budget item.
Yes, to budget for it. Quickly, who implemented the survey, issued the survey last time?
It was, like I said, indicated earlier that HR distributed the survey, but the questions were generated both with HR and the association membership or the board.
Who's that, association membership?
The San Clemente Employee Association. So the association represents the hourly employees.
So the HR manager issued a survey? I didn't work here at the time, so I'm not aware of the process.
HR manager issued a survey after the questions were, I'll say, finalized with the association, and then the HR manager solicited those survey to the employees, both hourly and mid-managers and executive all participated in the survey. The results were tabulated, and then the HR manager worked with the association in terms of the methodology, the statistics.
The HR manager?
Correct.
Okay.
And then once there was a blessing by both parties, then it was produced and did a presentation to both the employees association.
And were there names on the survey?
No, the names were optional. If someone wanted to write a name, they could. But what we were looking for was, departments. So we would ask what department you're in, because if you're saying, like, for instance, there's something bad going on, it would be nice to know what department it is so we could focus our efforts on those departments, but names were not required.
Okay.
Departments, age.
So do we have any other input on this? All right. So we go
I
ahead.
think they have direction.
Okay, you got direction?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Is that all? Okay, I have one item. As you know, last year, Scott Wiener, Senator from San Francisco, proposed SB 827. It was a housing bill that affected local planning, and it had to do with putting high-rise eight-story buildings by transit. And so it went down in defeat. League of Cities was against it last year because it took away our local control. But he's back at it, and he's doing SB 50 now. So I would like staff to look into that. It's a little different this time. There's information that if the building is in the coastal zone, it's exempt. Also, it talks about high opportunity, rich housing or rich job areas, but there's no definition of what that means for a city, if it's a rich job area. So I just want to know if staff could look at that, Eric, and come back to us with maybe a position that we should take if we're concerned with what's in the bill. It's a little scary. The mayor of San Diego recently said he's all on board with it. It seems to mainly deal with the issues in Northern California where they need homes by transit where they can get into San Francisco and Silicon Valley. But what we find is, what works in North California does not work for Southern California. So I'm just a little concerned when it talks about multiple story buildings next to transit, what that means for our city. So if we can just look at that.
Absolutely. Would you like us to just basically maybe do an email to the council as an update on information and then seek council direction further if they would like something agendized to take a position on?
Yeah, there's a legislative analyst, reporters.
Yeah, we'll get the fact sheets and some other things to the council members.
It might be too new, but it's just, we need to get a jump on it because, like I said, San Diego has jumped on it, and I'm concerned. I don't think that there's enough definition there to know what the bill means. Thank you.
Anything else? And
Okay. In that case, could we have a motion to adjourn? The next regular council meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 19th in the council chambers located here at 100 Avenue Presidio, San Clemente. Closed session items will be considered at 5. The regular business meeting will commence at 6. Want to make that motion?
You already made the motion, so I'm just going to say move.
I need a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Out of